This is Bree from Young, Saved, and Free, and I'm back with this week's devotional. For everybody that's new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Brianna. I am the founder and creator of Young, Saved, and Free. And for everybody that's been here, welcome back. I hope everybody has subscribed to my channel by hitting the subscribe button down below and also hitting the notification bell so you never miss another video from me. Now, I'm so glad to be back to do this, y'all. I miss doing this. So, my schedule got a little bit hectic. It was, oof. That's all I can say. It was, ooh-wee. But I have something very, very important to tell you all. So, if you like my shirt, and it says I almost but God, you can order these shirts from PC3 Apparel. So that is P as in Paul, C as in Charlie, the number 3. And this is my pastor's line. And, you know, I'm so proud of him. I can't believe he actually did it. I can't believe that he did it, but I'm to see it in its fruition, I'm so excited for him. So y'all definitely support. I guess we'll go ahead and get into this week's devotional. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my phone, y'all. Y'all know I put the devotionals on my phone. That's the preview. And if you have not already, if you don't get to finish this video, it is written on Blogspot at yslife.blogspot.com. So I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. This week's devotional is entitled "The Wind is Coming," and I'm gonna go ahead and open with our first verse, which is Psalms 46, 1-3, and it says, "God is our refuge and our strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear it when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the water surge." Sorry, y'all, I got a little hiccup. I don't know what just happened. So, I think right now with the pandemic going on and everything else going on, there's so many things happening right now, and literally some people, all I can hear is them crying out and asking, "Lord, help." They're not asking, "God, I need a house. God, I need a car. God, I need this." God, they're not asking God to do all these grandiose gestures, right? They simply are asking, "Lord, help." And so, when I sat down to write this, and by the way, I do apologize for the lighting. It's a situation, okay? It's a whole situation. But I've been hearing people say, "Lord help, Lord help, Lord help." And so when I sat down to write this, and he started talking to me, dealing with the wind and the hurricanes, and because there's actually, if y'all don't know, I live in Florida, so it's pouring down raining outside right now, and I've been watching the rain all day. It's actually not raining that hard, but when the wind blows, it makes it seem like it's 10 times worse than what it is, right? Because I tried to send my niece a video of it earlier, and it was it didn't look that bad, but then it sounded like everything was coming out my windows because the wind was blowing. And so God was telling me there's a fresh wind coming. I'm like, okay, but what does that really mean? And so he was telling me, he was like, there's all these things that the wind does. The wind exposes, the whole Marilyn Monroe thing, when the wind blew up, her dress went up and it was exposing all her good parts, her booty to the tutor, okay? And then, the wind, it also sweeps things away. So, it may sweep up that mound of dirt that you have piled up under your rug, right? It may do that, and it also does other things. So it can destroy things, it can produce things. More than anything, it produces energy. Now, and it's funny because I remember as a little girl, I went to the Netherlands. I was a Girl Scout. Yeah, I was a Girl Scout for about a couple months. They put me out. They didn't want nothing to do with me. They put me out, okay? But we took a trip to the Netherlands, and they showed us a lot of the windmills out there, and the windmills were producing all this energy. It was a natural source of energy, right? And so I remember being so fascinated by it, and I never would have thought the wind does that, because it's something that you can't see that's producing something that you didn't even know that it could produce, right? And so when I started to think about what he was telling me and where we are, I'm like, wow, something so simple could produce something so much greater than you would ever thought. And so he took me to 1 Kings 19, and it's the story about Elijah when he leads to Sinai. And I guess I'll start by reading verses 1-4. And it says, when Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah: May the gods strike me and even kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you, just as you killed them." Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. "I've had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died." So by this time in the text, Elijah literally has seen the effects of the wind. So, I don't know how familiar you are with the story of Elijah, but there was in chapter 18, that's when he said, let the God that's really God come by fire, and it was crazy. Like the whole thing went in fire. Like it's a whole situation, right? And so there was like him and the prophets of Baal, and the prophets of Baal was looking stupid because God showed up and showed out like he always does, right? So, and Ahab was the king at that time, and he was there and he witnessed it. And so right after that, Elijah told his servant to go tell him to go home. There is a storm coming, there is a wind coming, and the wind took a storm from the ocean to land. And so, it's funny to me when I read this part of the story, because it was like, usually men don't necessarily go home and gossip to their wives, right? That's just not something that I've ever witnessed like that. Men gossip just as much as women do, but they gossip among themselves. I've never really heard of a case where a man would did you hear this that happened, that happened, and blah, blah, blah. Like, they'll listen if a woman is gossiping to them, but it's very rare to me that they come back with it, right? And so when he went home to tell Jezebel, it was funny. Her reaction was so funny to me. Like, it was really funny to me. And so I had to go back and do a little research on Jezebel, and I found out that she was a priestess. Now, for y'all who don't know, I do have a lot of West Indian people around me, so I know a little bit about priestess. And when I thought about it, I'm like, I didn't really understand why she was upset at first, and I had to really think about it. I'm like, because she's a priestess, if she's upset that Elijah's God showed the God that she serves to be a lie, that's probably why she's upset. And not only that, she's a priestess, which means she's in a place of authority where she can perform the rituals and the customs of that, of that religion, or what of that, I guess religion was the word I was looking for. I don't know. But, she's able to perform those things. And so to be shown up as a lie, it probably hurt her ego a little bit, It probably rubbed her the wrong way, so she was all in her feelings about it. And I get it. I get it. You and your feelings because you just got showed up. Like, I get it. And so but Elijah did what we naturally as people would do. We would run. Like, if somebody is coming to kill me and I'm in their place, oh no, I'm about to go. Like, nah. Because it's different if I'm like in my house and somebody's saying they come, okay, come on. Come to my house. Please come to my house and try to kill me. Please. Okay? But that wasn't the case with Elijah. So in Elijah, I think he, at that point, I don't really, Elijah, yes, he's a prophet, but I don't know if he was expecting God to do what he did in chapter 18, the way he did it. And so, I think what he had to understand is that as a believer, God is always going to do something that you would never think that he would do, right? But there's things that you do ask him, he does do those things, but there's sometimes where he does something that's completely unorthodox. But we have to know that even still, he still is God, and he still is God all by himself. So regardless of wherever Elijah went, he had to know that God was going with him. But Jezebel also had to understand that there was an effect of the wind that was coming to her, and that was exposure. The wind can come and blow up all your business and show everybody what the truth really is. And that's what happened in that case. So she was upset and was like, you know what? You don't get to do that to me. So now I'm going to kill you. And so Elijah ran, but he had to know that as a believer, God goes with him wherever he's going, right? Because he never leaves us or forsakes us. And John 3:8 says, the wind blows wherever it wants. Just as you can hear the wind, but can't tell where it comes from or where it's going, so you can't explain how people are born of the Spirit. So when God shows up, there's no other choice but for things to be exposed. So, and I mean, at the mention of his name, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess, regardless of what they are doing. They have to acknowledge that he is God when he shows up, right? Because you don't know where he's coming from. You don't know where he's going. You don't know where he's been. But what you do know is that he's here right now. Because he's here, you have to acknowledge him. You have to give him total reverence, right? And so, I think, you know what? I think with Elijah, personally, like I said, I don't think he thought that God was going to show up the way he did. Like, if it was me, I would be looking around looking crazy if I would have seen that. Like, I know my God is real, but I'm like, bro, like, you had to do all that? Like, all I said was to just, like, you could have just catch a look like a lighter or something. I didn't know you was going to do all that. And then send a storm, like, bro, like, wait a minute. I don't know what I thought you was going to do. But because we literally have no idea what he's going to do or how he's going to show up, we have no choice but to respect it. So Elijah is in a place where someone would rather kill him than to respect the God that he served, even though his God was shown to be superior than hers, right? And so, like any breathing person, he ran, and I don't blame him. I do not blame him whatsoever. And so and it's funny because he had just seen God do all these things. He just seen miracles, signs, wonders, all that, right? Like literally within that one chapter. And even before then, he had been seeing things. But when life really hits, sometimes, it's not that Elijah didn't have faith. That fear just kind of was like, wait a minute. Like, God, I love you, but am I ready to die? No, I'm not. And it's almost like we forget the God that we serve in those moments of fear. So it's a natural thing, but we also have to remember that our God is greater than all that, and no weapon that's formed against us shall prosper. So even when he breathes on us, he breathes his shield of protection. He breathes his shield of his favor shield. You know what I'm saying? Like when he breathes on us, we have no choice but to live, right? And so it's just it was really funny to me to see that. And so and what really made me laugh was that he ran to Beersheba, and Beersheba was in Judah. If you don't know anything about the name Judah, well, the word Judah, name Judah, whatever you want to call it, Judah means praise, right? So he tried to hide because of who his God was. He didn't want to praise his God at that time because he was afraid for his life. But he ran to a place named Praise. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, when I looked at it, I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is absolutely crazy. And so, you can't be in a place of praise and think you're going to hide from him and not give him everything that's due unto him. And so, here's the thing with Elijah. He is a prophet, but that means you have to be a mouthpiece of God, right? And so, sometimes what that also means is that you have an out-of-body experience. Like, you literally are a vessel. So, Elijah may have not wanted the things that happened in chapter 18 to happen the way that they did, but because he's a mouthpiece of God, it came out of his mouth, and he literally was just like, God used me. Like, whatever came out was what came out. And so, he still remained obedient to him, even in that sense. So, and even like in Isaiah 1:19, it says, if you are obedient, you will eat the good of the earth, right? And so, in this chapter, the angel comes and he's telling Elijah, you have to eat. You have a journey you're about to go on, you need to eat. And so, Elijah did what he's supposed to do. Elijah ate. And so, what is also happening in this verse is what we talked about in the last devotion, which is preparation. Elijah didn't know why he needed to eat, per se. He knew he was going on a journey because that's what the angel told him, but he didn't know where he was going. He didn't know why he was going, but he did what he was told. So he was preparing himself because the angel told him, if you don't eat, you're not going to have enough strength to endure this journey. You're not going to be able to make it. So I'm preparing you now. And so even for some of you, there are some things that you just don't want to do. Like you don't necessarily want to be in the place that you're in. You don't. Sometimes, you know what? I'm gonna put it this way. when I moved down here, I didn't know that I was going to be living in Thomasville for a year. I had no idea that I was going to be. And when he told me, he's like, go to your aunt's house. This is where you're going to be staying. I said, okay. So I went. I was staying around. I'm like, Lord, I'm ready to get out of this. Lord, I'm ready to get out of this house. I'm tired of being here. I need my own space. Lord, I'm ready. I'm ready to get out of this house. And literally, up until the point that I moved, until he opened that door for me to move, things just kept happening. And like, I would keep trying to move. I was trying to do things in my own will. And it was like, no, you got to stay here. You have to stay here because I'm preparing you for what's next. So you can't, like, you can keep trying to move, but I'm not going to let that happen because you have to stay here for me to prepare you for what's coming. And I'm like, I'm tired. I can't be prepared in my own place. Like, I can't just, no, because even, and it was funny because, like, I think about it now because at the time, like, especially around March, April time frame, I was really like, okay, I'm over this. I'm really over being in a house full of people. Like, and I remember being on a live with Prophetess Tara Tillman, and I asked her, like, is it okay if I feel like, you know, I need to move out? I'm living with my pastor, my apostle, who is also my aunt, and I'm tired. I need, like, and she said, no. She said, it's okay that you feel like that sometimes, but God is preparing you. And I'm like, she's like, he's preparing you for ministry. And she knows me personally, but she does not know my situation, right? So when she said, I'm like, like, I don't want to hear that. Like, I'm like, I understand, you know, my auntie's an apostle, and, you know, eventually she's going to go out on the road, and she'll be traveling and stuff, and and she's like, not for her, for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. But at that time, I was like, I'm not doing it, but I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay, because I literally could have gone anywhere else at that time, but I stayed where I was. And so now I'm in a place where I'm like, oh God, this is what you were preparing me for. Oh, okay. I understand now. And so, you know, it's kind of hitting home for me because even in that time where I was right before I moved, it was like he was starting to show me things about people and show me how to look at certain ideas and concepts. And I'm like, Lord, have things always been like this? And I mean that's from, like, everybody around me, like family, extended family, way in other states, everything. Like, it's just like, Lord, has this always been like this? Like, and I would see stuff and I'm like, you know what? All right. And so then on top of that, he was sending random people to talk to me about self-worth. Like, he sent my first lady. She had no idea, and she's probably not watching this, but she had no idea what I was going through when she was talking about that at the time. She had no idea. And so, like, she was talking, she's like, I don't know why. You need to know your worth. You need to know your value. You need to know that just because you have it, just because somebody says they love you, does not mean that they get to get your gift or what you have to offer at a discounted rate. You don't do that. And so even with my sister, with my cousin, she came and she was talking to me about it, and I'm like, I said, okay, God, I get it. And, like, now I'm in a place where I'm like, you know what? Because before, I was looking for validation in people. I was looking for people to tell me, yes, you're this. Yes, you're that. This is what you have to. And I was looking for people to give me my worth instead of knowing my worth. And so now, and I can't be used by God if I do that. I cannot be, but he had to breathe a new life into me. His Ruach HaKodesh into me. And so he literally had to breathe a new life in me for me to understand, this is who you are. I breathe life into you the same way I breathe life into Adam, and I established you. I established the works of your hands. I'm telling you who you are. I'm telling you what I purposed you to be. And so now this is what you have to do to move forward. I've prepared you. Now this is where we are, and this is where we have to go. You can't go back to being in the womb. You have to move forward. And so, you know, I'm going to be honest, it's not always easy. It's not always easy being in a place where he's using you and you were literally just a vessel and you don't even understand what's happening. You can witness things and you can see all these things, but you just don't understand what's happening. And so when he's preparing you, He's literally everything that you're going through up until that point in your life has prepared you for where you are right now, right? It's prepared you for where you are. And so I think it's in Ecclesiastes 4, for everything there is a reason in a season under the sun. And I remember reading that, and I never thought about it that way. Like, there's certain times every time I hear that verse before, it was like, okay, so everything can't be good all the time. That's the way I would used to understand that verse to be. Like, I would just say, okay, so sometimes you gotta go through bad things, but at the same time, yes, those things happen. Sometimes there's bad, times where it's really, really hard, and there's times where everything is great. But all things work together, right? All things, they're all working together to bring you to this place, and it's preparing you, right? And so, ask me how I know. Please just ask me how I know what was going on with Elijah, because Elijah was not mentally ready. Elijah was not mentally ready at all for what was coming. And so, just think about it. I want y'all to look at the text and think about it. How do you know that Elijah was not mentally prepared for what was going to come? So the reason why I know that Elijah was not meant to prepare is because when God asked him, "Why are you here?" He was like, "Well, this happened and this." No. I didn't. This is where you have to know when you're growing, because children, you can ask them a question and they'll talk about whatever, right? They'll just like I remember when my niece, she'll be 9 in a couple months. Yeah, in a couple months. I think what year it was. Sorry. But when she first started talking, you say, "Mari, how was your day going?" Or something. You could ask her what she's doing, just something simple, and she would tell you this whole story that had nothing to do with the question, right? And be like, "Mari, I didn't," and I can just be like, and mentally, I'm like, I didn't ask for all that. But, I know what she knew what she was trying to tell me, but that had nothing to do with what I was asking. I didn't ask you what happened today. I asked you, what are you doing right now? And so with Elijah, God said, "What are you doing here?" And he went on and on about what had happened before he got here. That's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you. He said, "You know what? Go out to the mountain, okay?" Like Elisha had already ran out into the wilderness. God found him in the wilderness. Obviously, God is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. He knows what happened. You don't have to tell him what happened. He knows. He already knows. But Elijah was like, "God, this happened, and they did this, and they did that." No, that ain't what I asked you. So because you're not answering my question, let me show you something real quick, right? And so God had Elijah go out to the mountain, right? And God went by, the wind blew, right? And everything behind him was just falling. Stuff was catching on fire. There was mountain slides. There was rain. There was all this stuff happening. Like, it was Captain Planet everywhere, okay? It was 2000. Have y'all ever seen the movie 2012? It was like that all around Elijah. And so there were certain things that happened and this is what really, really got my attention, okay? This is really, really what caught my attention. So, in the midst of all of this, let's see. Yeah, in the midst of all of this, God was still keeping Elijah. He was not allowing anything to harm him. You know how many people die in mountain slides or rock slides, whatever it's called, avalanches? You know how many people die in those? You know how many people die in hurricanes, who are killed in forest fires or wildfires, whatever? Fires, period. And all this stuff was going around Elijah, and he was fine. He was fine. God could name when I looked at him, I'm like, wow, like, all hell can be breaking loose around you, but you will still sustain us, right? Like, you will still keep us. You will still be our protector. You will still be our strong tower. We can literally run into you like Elijah ran into the mountain and be safe because you are our strong tower. And so it's kind of why you have to embrace where you are in the storm. Because, and I talked about this in the midweek push, because even in the midst of that, you're still there. Like, if the storm was going to take you out, you would not have been there to say, this storm is going to take me out. It would have already taken you out. Like, it would have already happened. And so he's still keeping you, and it's still showing that God is in control. Like, you're stronger. The God that's in you is stronger than you think. It's a lot stronger. Like, it's a lot. Like, we always say, greater is he that's within me. But it's like, we don't be thinking about how great it really is. Like, we really don't think about that, but we're so obedient. We're so obedient. The thing about obedience is when you're obedient to God, you really get to experience who he is for real. The same thing with your storm. Even in your storm, you get to experience God for real. Okay? And so, like, I think about, a lot of times I talk about my college experience, and that's really where I found God for real. Like, I knew who God was previously from other people's testimonies, but in college I had my own testimonies and I gained my own revelation of who God was during those 4 years. I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was hiccups, a cough, or what that was. I was trying to come up just now. But I gained my own revelation of who God was in those 4 years at Valdosta State University. Like, I saw him do so much, and it was so many things happening. I lost my grandfather when I was in school, and I still had to keep going. Like, I still had to, even though he died literally the week after finals, that Monday after finals, he was sick prior to that entire year. It really, probably a year prior to that, he had been sick. Like, he had been sick. And so going through that time in school where I'm still trying to hold it together. And as a matter of fact, and I love my mama, I really do. But at that time, every time something happened, she called me. And I internalize a lot of things. I take on other people's emotions. So for me to be in school and taking on all these emotions that my mom is putting on me, and I know she didn't mean it like that, but that's just how it happened. That's just how I'm built. I feel other people's pain. That is something that I do. It is what it is. And so even in that, and going through this relationship and all this other stuff that I'm in, and I have school going on, I have after school activities, like, student work stuff I have going on, my own stuff with my own church. Like, I had a million things going on, but even still, I was calm, cool, and collected. Like, it was incredible. Like, it was incredible to witness. Now that I'm older, because he died 8 years ago. So, like, to think about how it was then, and to think people didn't even know, it's interesting, because, like, he, even in our weakest time, he's truly our strength. And so, even when we feel like we're not going to make it, he keeps breathing on us. He gives us a second wind, and he breathes life into us. So if he breathes on it, and this is something my cousin taught me last week, as a matter of fact, she said if God breathes on something, it has no choice but to grow. So even when you feel like something is killing you on the inside, when I lost my granddaddy, I felt like my whole world was shattered. Okay, I felt like everything was taken away from me at that time. But he was breathing on me even still, and I kept growing. I was growing through that, and I was having the growing pains, literally growing pains. And so even now, when you're going through your storm, understand and know that those are just growing pains, and he's still breathing life in you. He's still making sure that he shows you who he really is, because sometimes those growing pains can be, you gotta move. Sometimes those growing pains is though, you have to cut off your friends. Like, you have to trim. Like, I'm really into hair, if y'all don't know. So I used to have a thing about not wanting to trim my ends when I was in school, right? I used to hate getting my ends trimmed because I would always come out with like this bob that would be like, the back would probably be like here, but the front would be about where my bob is now. And I would be so mad. I'm like, I just want my hair to grow. and they're like, you have to trim your ends. I'm like, why do I have to cut my hair for it to grow longer, for it to grow, because it wasn't growing healthy. And so a lot of times we're getting older, but we're still spiritually sick. And so we have to, when God breathes on us, He's so good that him breathing on us will heal us. It'll give us a fresh wind. And so it's coming. So just hold on, y'all. Please hold on and be prepared for what's about to happen. I literally am watching it happen around me right now. Like, literally things are being exposed around me, and I'm like, oh. And I'm just sitting around like, wow. Like, even with people from years and years ago, like, things are just coming out that have been, I had said years ago, and I let it go. And now 2020 is like, you can see it clearly, right? Wow. Like, and like, as I had a conversation with my mom today, and I said that because she was talking about these people, and I had been saying I don't like them, I don't trust them, I would never go nowhere near them, I don't want to be around them, blah blah blah. And she said something to that. She said, I don't trust their judgment. And I said, really? It took you long enough? She was like, what? And I said, I said, it's exposure. Exposure is happening, but it's still producing. The wind is still producing. So don't feel like it's about to be a bunch of bad stuff happening, because it may not necessarily be true. It may just be uncomfortable. But he's still breathing on you to give you new life. And you're just going to have to go through it. And so yeah, I think that's all I have for you all today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also make sure you're following me on Instagram, and make sure you're keeping up with everything going on over there, because I have a lot of stuff that I'm doing on Instagram right now. I'm about to launch something very big. So you don't want to miss it. Make sure you're following me, and I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.